Well, I was listening to. I'm someone that didn't know they had attention deficit disorder. I mean, I got severe attention deficit disorder. So I was like, well, I just happened to see this, and I've been studying my mind for 10 years. Just looking at my own mind and observing it for 10 years. So because my interest was in fixing my ADD. Oh, it looks like this ain't gonna work. Let me fix this.
The other thing is that they often 1980.
So I'm listening to this guy
What we
talk about ADD after I've studied my own mind for 10 years. And the first thing I'm realizing, this guy, if he can't explain what it is, which he's failing, he's clueless. And I just gotta laugh about it because I've never studied psychology at all, zero. I mean, with ADD, I don't even read any books. You know, so I'm listening to this guy, and I'm like, if he can't explain it, that means he doesn't really know what it is. He doesn't know how the brain works. He's quoting everything that when I do every once in a while listen to a video or listen little people talk about it, he is quoting how it works. You know, no, I mean, as far as well, let's just listen to the video, and I'll just tear apart what he says, or not tear apart, but point out what's actually going down here. See, I'm tempted to listen to it. Well, let's just listen to it this way. We'll try it this way.
know as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or some people still call it ADD, attention deficit disorder, has been recognized by some doctors since way back in 1902. But from 1902 until 1980, it was all about little boys who couldn't sit still, couldn't shut up, and were driving everybody nuts. It was just behavior problems. The name.
Now let me cut in right there. Behavior is how it manifests. Behavior is a manifestation. For example, in science, and I don't study science either, but I did notice in science that the way that scientists know elements in the universe is by what? By their behavior. Like a lot of people never totally try to understand what gravity is, for example, or what time is, or concepts of this nature. They just know them by their behavior. So the behavior of an ADD person is a manifestation of basically of what? The way, a way that a person thinks. So let's clarify that right from the get-go. Behavior is a manifestation of a way, because ADD is a way of thinking. That's all it is. And I'm not sure if I'm going to reveal the secrets of exactly how thinking works, because I'm thinking about writing a book about it, which is called Owner's Manual for a Brain. Because every human being alive thinks a certain way. We all, every person, you can, I don't want to give away too many secrets, but you can make anybody kick into ADD type thinking. You can kick anybody into that if you apply what? Enough psychological pressure. Now, the only person you can't crack, I don't want to give away too many secrets here. The only person you can't crack is a super sociopath, like, for example, a Hannibal Lecter type personality, or a Raymond Rennington on the Blacklist. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not sure if this guy who has all this education and me has zero education, don't even read any books. I'm not sure if this, so far I'm not convinced this guy even has an understanding of ADD. Now I'm sure scientists treats the problem, but sometimes they treat problems and they don't even understand how it works. So let's listen to a little bit more what this guy has to say.
The name of the disorder was changed a number of times. There are different formulations, but it was all about behavior problems. Since 1980, which is when they first changed the name of the disorder to include the words attention deficit, we've realized that this is not so much a behavior problem, but far more a problem with the brain's management system, its executive functions. And we've also learned that there are many people who have ADHD who've never had any significant behavior problems.
I mean, what he's saying here is so simply explained. And like, once again, nobody taught me any of this. This is something I had of my own thoughts. When you're growing up, your behavior is programmed by... See, I was going to write a book. It's a Christian book. I was going to write a book, and basically the book is based on something a wise man said called King Solomon. And King Solomon said something that caught my attention. And Solomon said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Now I haven't met a Christian yet that actually figured out what the heart is. I figured it out. But I haven't met a Christian yet that figured it out. And I don't think I'm going to reveal the secret of it here, because I'm writing a book about it. But what I saw when I looked at that scripture, thanks to someone who knows how the brain works, called the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit said DNA. Now your character is formed by what? Your character's, when you're young, you're like a sponge. You just absorb everything around you. So by the time you're 3 or 4 years old, your character, which causes also your behavior, is what causes your behavior. So of course you're not going to explain ADD by behavior alone. Because you have all this DNA of character. And that DNA that DNA of your character is as complex as real DNA. I mean, for example, we're trying to look at DNA to see where disease is, right? So this is why this guy here, of course you can't see of course you can't compare one person with ADD with another person with ADD. You can't compare one person with ADD and another person with ADD because the download of character is DNA. Do you understand that? That's as complex as the DNA in your body. What is DNA? Basically, what is DNA? DNA is information that speaks. Now, what is your character? Your character, from the time you're, from maybe even as much as in the womb to 3 or 4 years old, there's a passive download of information that gives you, and like I said, I've never read a book in my life. There's a passive download of information. This is just all from my own thinking. There's a passive download of information, and that's a multitude of DNA of character that you're picking up from whatever's around you, for the most part. For the most part, that's a child can emulate somebody's character at 3 or 4 years old. They can act just like an adult. You've seen these children out there that cuss like adults or manifest the same personality, because all of that DNA, and that's what's so dangerous about all this, is a personality. See, that's why we have such difficulty dealing with. That's why we have issues like, for example, um, black black men are mad. You got these kneeling athletes in the United States, and they're kneeling because, like in 2016, I think it was like 12 to 14 black men got shot that were unarmed. And that doesn't mean that they weren't violent, right? So they're screaming about these 14 black men that were unarmed that got shot by police. But you don't see them screaming about the, I'd have to find the article, about this, I think is it 6,000? I can't remember the exact number. But 6,000 some black people were killed by other black people. And you don't see them, you don't see these athletes talking about that at all. And the numbers are tremendous, extreme, from 14 to, I think it might be as high as 8,000 are murdered by other black people. But the reason they're doing that is because this download of culture, it has nothing to do with skin color. The only thing it has to do is culture. And culture has nothing to do with skin color. Culture is something that is a learned behavior. And you'll see, you know, like for example, Tiger Woods just happens to be black, and another, and what is he, black and Korean? I forget exactly what he is. But you don't see him. You see him. Why is he so good at golf? Tiger Woods is so good at golf because he started at an early age. It comes natural to him. And everybody worships him because he's so good at golf, but it's something that was downloaded into him at an early age. So this DNA, this large volume, like when your brain at that time, you don't have to consciously learn language. It's just absorbed. It's a download, and it's as complex as your DNA that you have that creates an individual cell. There's a lot of volume of information that's downloaded very quickly. So of course you can't say that someone with ADD is going to manifest the same behavior, because behavior's controlled by billions of parts of individual DNA of information, which is not only manifest in language, it manifests in behavior, because behavior is a language. Also, it's a way of thinking, and all of thinking, if you really want to look at it, is a language, in a sense. Now, it might be not a language that you're familiar with. It might be an impulsive language, but it's a language. It's a way of thinking, and a way of thinking is in a sense a language. So that's how that works.
And that even for those who have, that's usually the least of it. It's the attention problems that tend to make more trouble for people, particularly as they get a little bit older and more is expected of them for being able to manage themselves.
Now, why does it manifest as you get older? Let's explain that. Since I'm older, I'm almost 62. It manifests worse as you get older because energy and focus go hand in hand, for one. I mean, you without energy, you can't focus. And that's not, and it takes energy to focus, because as soon as you become tired or exhausted, your brain adverts to the ADD part of the brain, which I'm not going to explain exactly how it works. I don't know if I'm going to give away those secrets. but it reverts to the resting state, which is, man, I'm so tempted. Okay, I'm gonna give away this secret. It reverts to for example, when you sleep, what state does your brain advert to? A dream state. A dream. So in all actuality, daydream. When you're tired, your brain adverts to a daydream state while you're awake, and that's what, in a sense, what ADD is. You're daydreaming. And that's the natural resting state of a person when they become fatigued. And as you get older, you have less energy. We don't have like little ports on us so we can measure our energy levels like a battery. It'd be nice if we did, because then workplaces would say, hey, oh, this person here, his battery's about to die. We got to let him have a little rest break. But it don't work that way. It's a shame that it doesn't work that way. And that's when an ADD type personality is likely to snap, because they're already running on low anyway. And let me explain why ADD people run low in the first place. I'm not saying this is the reason for all ADD, but this is one of the big reasons for ADD. It's called leaky gut. See, I manifested with chronic fatigue. And this is kind of a complex issue, unless you really understand it. But I manifested with the chronic fatigue, and then my other sisters manifested with fibromyalgia, and the other one with lupus and chronic arthritis. And if you look at leaky gut, you see that's all the manifestations. So one of the first manifestations, since you got to understand, in your gut you have a surface area. And I've read any books. I just watched some YouTube videos here and there and tied all the pieces together. And I'm not saying that I know everything or that I'm correct, but prove me that I'm wrong. But see, your gut I think it has a surface area of what, like a tennis court. So the outside world, like your skin right here, that's not where you're getting exposure to the outside world. So because most of your exposure is in your gut, your immune system is in right there in your gut. And you not only have exposure from the outside world, bringing everything from the outside world inside you, which you have a football or a tennis court, where it's a surface area in your gut that's being exposed to the outside world. You have you also have, some people think it's 10 times the amount of cells in your body. What do we have, like 40 trillion cells? So some people think that the number of bacteria in your gut is 10 times that amount. Some people think it's more one-on-one. But the bottom line is that you don't want that bacteria in your bloodstream, right? Because your bloodstream's a holy place, per se. It don't have bacteria in it. And when you get bacteria in it, you get a thing called sepsis. And sepsis is very dangerous. I worked as a respiratory therapist. How I did it as ADD, it was pure hell. How I even educated myself with ADD, I had to use a tape recorder when I was younger. And I had to listen to stuff over and over and over and over until finally my brain focused enough to hear it. But that was a long time ago, and I didn't know I had it, didn't know how the brain worked. But I found out that the most intelligent people in the class, that I got A's just like they did. I had to work my butt off. I had to work 40 times harder than them, but I realized that I wasn't dumb. Now, ADD does have, I think, memory type issues sometimes, because the way I see that is memory is I think, similar to like a printing press. Like if you're going to print something in your brain, or even print something on a printing press, you want the pressure to make contact with the surface, right? You want to have good contact with the surface of something for you to make a copy, right? Because what is memory? I'm just having this revelational thought right now as I'm speaking about this. That's how my brain works. I don't know if it's. I think God kind of throws stuff in there too. But it's a copy. What is memory? It's a copy of something, right? You press against a printing press presses and it makes a copy, right? So you're interested in making a copy. That's what a memory is, a copy, right? So then ADD mind isn't memory wise. The ADD mind, it can make a copy, because I learned that I could learn stuff. But to make a copy of something, you have to have the original, right? You got to take the original, and it's got to be put in the brain. It has to stick in the brain long enough to make a copy, and with enough pressure. In pressure, you could look at it in the brain in different. Let me explain that, because I'm seeing. See, this is the way my brain works. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit, but okay, I just had a revelation. I just forgot it. That's how quickly I can forget stuff too. Oh, so I can learn stuff instantly by tapping into this realm, but then I can forget stuff just as fast. Oh man, I had a revolutionary thought. I just lost it. Oh, I lost it. Oh no. Let me see if I can find it again. I was talking about how pressure. I think. See, pressure in the brain, as far as a memory. For example, oxygen travels through your bloodstream by pressure. The molecules of air pressing down. The air doesn't get thinner as you go higher. The pressure is less. So in the brain, pressure. Oh, now I got back what I was trying to think. An ADD person will have 100% memory almost of something if it deals with an emotional issue. And there's a reason that's true, because the ADD person thinks more with that part of the brain. But if they think with that, then the memory, the pressure of the memory, I guess you could call it pressure, will cause that memory to stick and make a good imprint in the brain. It'll make a copy, right? Because all it really is a copy of information, right? Now, it's not a perfect copy, because everybody hears and sees based on their DNA. They're looking through the lens of their own DNA, right? The DNA of all the information that's ever been put in them, which gives them the unique character and unique belief system. They're looking through that, all of that information as a form of consciousness, and they're looking at something that's coming in, a bit of information that they're going to make a copy of, and the copy is going to be subject to all of that, right? And then some people don't even hear. I mean, like yesterday, I was accused of a black man of treating him like a slave. And that's because I had a job where I had to tell him what to do, and he didn't, but he perceived it as me treating him like a slave. And then he quickly transmitted that information to another black man, and this black man laughed like it was true. So I go over to this other black man because I had to speak to him next, and I'm like, I think he's confused. I'm the slave in this scenario, I said. I'm the slave. I'm the one that's running around here like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to keep up. I'm the one that's only making $12 an hour with no benefits. So, I'm the slave in this scenario. But if I wouldn't have said that to this guy completely agreed with me 100%. But I was the slave in this scenario. Now, he might have felt that by my tone of being the master, of having to rule in this particular situation, that I was the treating him like he was a slave, because just all I'm doing is telling him what to do, because he doesn't know what to do. But I got quickly accused of treating him like I was the master and he was a slave. When in all actuality, he was sitting on his butt doing nothing, while I'm running around with like a chicken with my head cut off, barely able to keep up, in a pure hell job where his situation was 1,000 times better than mine, but he was too oblivious to see that. But anyway, I even forget the conversation where I originally picked all this up at. But anyway, let's move forward. But that was kind of interesting, the memory thing. I need to think about that more, because I never had that thought before until just now. The memory is a copy of something. Very interesting. Just making a copy of something. Very, very interesting. I like that. Now, there's some people that seem to be able to make a real easy copy of stuff, and the ADD mind, it doesn't seem to be real good as far as memories, of retaining memory, unless you shift out of it. But once I shifted out of it, I still remember that stuff I studied years and years ago. 40 years ago, it was almost 35 years ago that I studied in school. I still remember, I retain a lot of that information. But still, I was struggling to make a copy of the information. And I wonder if I could shift my brain completely on the ADD side, if I could make a perfect copy. Oh, what I was talking about was the leaky gut. See, the leaky gut, going back to the surface area, you got all these bacteria in your gut. I mean, you don't want that stuff crossing into the bloodstream. So most of your you have a huge amount of immune system in your gut, right? And that's both good and bad. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But what you're really damned is when the lining, in leaky gut, the lining of the gut gets broke down for whatever reason. Like, we live in an age where we've increased sugar tremendously. Sugar has went tremendously increased. Now, whether this is what's causing all the ADD, probably. It's a contributor for sure, because it's manifesting, I believe, from leaky gut. So basically, we've increased sugar exponentially. It's in everything. It's just everywhere. And then we've done a crazy thing on top of that. we've given people antibiotics. So then you got yeast that can overgrow in the gut. And you don't want an overgrowth. Even the Bible's a genius when it comes to that. It has a period of the time in the year where they eat a thing called unleavened bread, where they just cut out yeast for a period of time. But then we wipe out all these healthy bacteria, which is a huge ecosystem. Which they've seen some bacteria in mice. If you change one bacteria, you can actually make a mouse lose weight just by altering this bacteria. And they're just beginning to start to try to understand this stuff. And then we disconnected ourselves from dirt. We even lived in a phase where we were using soaps that killed natural bacteria on your skin. And then all of a sudden they thought, well, that's not a good thing, so let's stop doing that. So, but basically what happened with my sisters, my younger sister has ADD. The older sister, she has a form of ADD too. Yeah, I think so. But it runs in my family big, but I think it's mainly a gut problem. Like you do pick up a lot of your gut from when you pass through the vagina. At least that's what's thought. Some people change their mind about that. Pick up a lot of your natural bacteria when you pass through the vagina. But then, I mean, just being kissed, I suppose, by your mom and different things, hand contact, going in the mouth. There's lots of contact that people don't think about, where a lot of bacteria could be exchanged. But heck, I gotta get ready to go to work here. But basically ADD, when you have you break down the lining of the gut and you got a chronic battle going on inside your gut, you might not really notice it. It'll kind of make you feel a little fatigued. It's like I suppose you could describe it as like a battery has to have a connection, right? Well, all the food that you're eating is energy, right? But that's not really what's happening exactly. Kind of, a little bit. But mainly, you have a little battle that's going on in your gut. It's trying to regenerate itself, and for whatever reason, with ADD, which it could be yeast, it could be the wrong type of bacteria. The lining of the gut starts to get broke down. With me, coffee really did some real damage. I could see a big difference in me when I started drinking coffee. But I didn't pick that up till quite a few years ago, and that's when I started really struggling even more with fatigue and ADD. That's when it really got worse. But I think what caused my attention deficit disorder when I was younger, it's two factors. I lived in a household where people thought in that language. That was their normal state of mind. Plus, I think it's a combination of both. Plus the leaky gut thing that weakens you and fatigues you and makes your mind shift to the daydream type state of mind, which is the ADD mind. You're daydreaming. It's a natural resting state of the brain. And unfortunately, it can become dominant. And the gut could also be where we produce our neurotransmitters. And I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just theorizing. But there's another person I studied. But basically, going back to the immune system, the last thing you want is things crossing into the immune system and then being sensitized against it. Something that's supposed to be you're feeding your body with, your body becomes sensitized. Like, for example, on my older sister, her skin started attacking itself. And it makes perfect sense because if protein breaks through, then your body's going to attack protein. Your body's made of protein. So her skin cells on my older sister started attacking her own cells. So it kicks off all kinds of inflammatory type things and all kinds of. It's like sounding an alarm, like pulling a fire alarm every day at work. Your body just gets all confused. I mean, imagine pulling a fire alarm every day at work, and the people are trying to get work done, and you're pulling this fire alarm. Your body just gets all confused, and I mean, I guess the bottom line, if you really want to look at it, it's all information, right? It's informational confusion. That's one key thing about everything that exists. One key truth element is that everything, when you get down to it, is information. Bits of information, and bits of information do different things. On a scientific level, electron acts a certain way. Gravity acts a certain way. So, to crack anything, it's just how information is either remembered, because your antibodies, they're being sensitized and having a memory for certain things that they're saying are bad, when those things are bad if they get to a certain place they're not supposed to be in the bloodstream or in the immune system. So basically, it creates a lot of confusion. But the manifestation that I'm mainly talking about is the fatigue factor, because and I'm not exactly sure what causes the fatigue. I just know that that's part of it, part of the ADD. Now, you can train the brain to, like I've been trying to train my brain, even though I haven't had time to deal with the leaky gut issues. I've dealt with a little bit and improved my focus quite a bit as I dealt with that. I am able to focus better. Plus, I've also taught myself how I broke down the understanding on how the brain works in a very detailed level. So I know how the brain works, so I know how focus works generally, and how everything works, which I'm not going to tell all those secrets. I've already kind of given away a few secrets. But even with that, I still think there's probably a neurotransmitter problem of some sort, perhaps, plus the fatigue. It's probably contributing factors that cause the ADD. From the fatigue of just having a battle in your gut all the time, to the fact that that's where the battery gets its energy from food. I mean, most of the energy we get is from food, other than inhaling oxygen and sun. You get some vitamin D from the sun, but that's where energy comes from. And I've heard one person say that, when I started rereading I only read about 5 pages of a book on physiology. I read about 5 pages, and right away I started seeing some stuff. And the first thing I saw is that we have 10 major systems. But what they didn't see is what I saw. Is we have 10 major systems: respiratory system, circular system. We have all these major systems. But what I started thinking about was instantly that these 10 systems are built by mainly one system, and that's the digestive system. So if you screw up the digestive system, it's the fall of 10. You're going to affect the 10 other systems, right? So that's like the number one, one of the number one systems that feed all the other systems, right? I mean, that's just an absolute fact. But I've run out of time. I've only listened to this guy for 1 minute. But I originally listened to it for 3 or 4 minutes, and right away I realized this guy doesn't know exactly what ADD is. And I'm not going to break that down. I'm kind of glad I didn't get that far, because I might have given away some of the secrets of the books I'm working on. But I'm going to end this video. I just got triggered. That's what us ADD people do. We get triggered. Very frustrating.